Good morning, everybody. We gave 5 minutes extra to those that were out last night in Vegas, but we now have to start. This next session, it is put by the Reimagining Practice of Surgery Task Force. Over the years, we have seen how the joy of practicing surgery has been chipping away from us. And we go to a lounge, we complain constantly, but nothing happens. Then SAGES finally decided to put a task force that, rather than concentrate on burnout that we have heard so much on the last years, is going to concentrate on trying to regain the joy of the practice of surgery and show physicians, surgeons that have more control than what we think. Then lots more to come from that. And the lectures on this session are geared for that, are geared towards showing that in other industries, there is a lot that we have to learn about how the employees are treated, how is the operating room is going to be in the future, and also what education may look in the future. Our first speaker, which is my pleasure to introduce, is Brian Dunkin. As you all know, Brian Dunkin is a past president of the SAGES, and at the same time, he has been a leader in endoscopy for decades. He now moved to industry, and by the way, this is a non-CME lecture, and he is the Chief Medical Officer for Boston Scientific. But above all, Brian is a good friend and a good human being. Brian?
Thank you, Horacio, and good morning to all. It's really a pleasure to be here and to be able to take a little time on this topic of reimagining surgical culture and leadership. So I know it's not a CME event, as Horacio just explained, but I did want to put this disclosure up anyway, and it's because of that transition that he just mentioned. A couple of years ago, I moved from full-time academic surgical practice into my position with Boston Scientific. And this talk is going to revolve around what I've observed in differences, mainly in how people are treated and managed from the academic surgical world to the world that I live in now. So I'll be speaking a lot about what we do at Boston Scientific from a people management perspective, but I'm not speaking on behalf of Boston Scientific. These are my opinions and observations. So let me tell you a little bit about what this talk is not going to be, because I don't want to overstate my qualifications in this area. First of all, if you were expecting me to give you the solution to burnout in 15 minutes this morning, then I'm going to be disappointing you. Because as we know, that's a complex problem, but I hope I give you some insight into ways to prevent that. If you thought you were going to get personal advice about how to improve your well-being, I'm not a life coach, and I'm not qualified to do that either, although maybe tonight at the sing-off we can have a discussion over a beer. And I'm definitely not an HR resource management expert, but I've gained a great appreciation of the science of human resource management and the expertise of the people that do it well, and I'm going to talk quite a bit about that. So what this is insight into that juxtaposition between my life as a surgeon, over 25 years in practice, professor of surgery, worked at 3 different academic institutions. I think I counted it up, about 17 hospitals that I've cared for patients in over the years. I've run departments and divisions, I've built institutes, I've been part of the leadership of hospitals, and compare that experience to my experience in my new position and how we work and how we live. And this is the summary of my evaluation at this point in my experience. I believe to my core that medicine does not manage people well. And I find this terribly ironic. For a profession that cares for others, we are not good at caring for ourselves or managing ourselves or our teams around us. And let me explain a little bit about that. So in business, people are the most valuable and complex resource in the organization. And because of that, high-performing organizations don't have people do things that someone of lesser experience, skill, or knowledge can do. Think about that for a second. If your life was that way, and you got to go through your day working in that manner, I believe that that alone would change our satisfaction in much that we do. So how do we do that, or how do we strive to do that? So I'm going to use the word we through the rest of this talk. That's we meaning Boston Scientific. Again, these are my observations, not the company's. But we look at human resource management as a science. And let me give you a little insight to that. So when I was interviewing for this position that I ended up taking, I had the usual list of people that I was going to meet with during the day. And one of them was a person named Wendy Carruthers. And it said Wendy Carruthers, HR. And based on my experience in academic surgery, I thought, well, maybe I'll hear a little bit about benefits and some of the investment plans and kind of what those opportunities are, because that was my impression of how HR is in the world that I inhabited. And then I met Wendy Carruthers, a member of the executive committee for a multinational organization that employs over 35,000 employees and distributes them in over 130 countries around the world. And we didn't talk about benefits or packages or retirement plans or that kind of thing. We talked about people management. We talked about how do you organize people to accomplish the goals of the organization while you develop and retain them. And it was fascinating. And then when I got hired, and I'm in our executive management board meeting, the person sitting next to me is also an HR expert, sits on the management board, knows the company deeply and knows what we're trying to accomplish, and weighs in on how we need to organize ourselves and manage ourselves to accomplish those goals. The other thing is we don't expect people like me to have this expertise. So we partner. So in the first day that I joined the organization, I'm assigned a human resource partner. I meet with this person essentially on a weekly level, and we review everything that I'm responsible for in the organization from a people standpoint. The people that report to me, the people that report to those, how they're performing, who is top talent that needs to be advanced, how are we rewarding them, what's the next step for them in their career, and how are we going to remediate if there's an issue. And we've been building teams as part of medical affairs in Boston Scientific Endoscopy, and I have never thought about how we assemble teams in a way that this HR partner has enlightened me on. The other thing we do is we pay attention. So we pay attention to the people in our organization and our talent. And this is for me individually with regular one-on-ones with the person that I report to. And not only do we talk about what we want to accomplish together, but I get feedback constantly on my performance. How can I improve? How can I be more effective? And I'm not left to do that on my own. I'm provided resources and direction on how to do that. And then we set milestones to deliver that. We do that for every leader in the company. Again, I'm with the company for less than 6 months, and we have our talent review. This is a multi-day review of all of the leadership talent in the division, where we review how they're performing, what the next stage in their career is going to be with the organization, and how we're going to support that. And we walk out of that meeting with specific plans on each individual. I didn't quite know how to take it when they said I needed a succession plan. I was to the company for less than 6 months. But from their standpoint, that was necessary not only for doing the work of the organization if I should leave tomorrow and having a plan for how that role is going to be filled, but if there's someone within the organization that we envision is going to fill that role, we need to start now in developing them so that they'll be ready at the right time. The other thing we do is we don't assume that leadership is a God-given talent. In fact, we assume the exact opposite. And so we train people to be leaders. And we have lots of resources to help do that. We have online resources that can do self-directed curricula. We have advanced curricula, this accelerated leadership development program, a 10-month program where top talent that's been identified in the organization is selected to go through this in order to how to be better people managers. We also do creative things around leadership. So this is a picture of the beaches in Normandy. This is where the Allies came ashore during World War II and changed the course of that war. Our entire management team went to Normandy and spent 5 days in a leadership retreat where we were taken by a military expert, historian, to beaches and battlefields, and we were told about leaders and how they performed in those environments, good and bad. And we used the experiences of these leaders to incorporate that into how we're going to manage ourselves and how we're going to be people leaders. We also mentor, and this is a great way to smooth out edges of a surgeon that just came into the organization, or fill in gaps for talent that's going to allow this person to get to the next level, or someone to be that advocate for a person who might have stalled in the organization. We also embrace a concept called traversing the mountain. We don't believe that the ascension to the top is a straight line. In fact, it should not be. And so as you move up in the organization, you should be given different experiences outside of your area of expertise in order to give you a better understanding of the organization and a better portfolio of skills. So if you're in sales, we might move you to marketing. If you're in R&D, we're going to move you to sales. If you're in marketing, we might put you in professional education. And we'll do that geographically as well, around the nation and around the world, to give you the experiences that we believe will be helpful for you as a valuable member of our organization to ascend and contribute. We also work very hard on culture. And I'm very proud of our team. Over the last 6 months, we've gone through a very specific exercise to define what we call our burning ambition. What is your purpose in the world? What gets you up out of bed in the morning and come to work, and why is it with this particular organization? And you can see our burning ambition on the slide. Our goal is to transform healthcare as one endoscopy. And to achieve that goal, we define what we call I statements. These are the behaviors that we expect of ourselves and each other when we're working together and trying to achieve the goal. And I think if you look at these 6 behaviors on that slide and imagine if the people around you exhibited these behaviors and you did yourself, that's an organization you want to be part of. Those are people that you want to be around. We also celebrate. And I got to tell you, I'm not a everybody gets a trophy kind of guy. My philosophy has been do good work, that's what's expected, keep your head down and you'll be recognized for that. But I've learned the value of raising people up and celebrating what they do within an organization. And I'll give you an example. We have a quarterly award that we give out to different teams in the organization called the Winning Spirit Award. And you can see some of the criteria for selection there. And last quarter, the person that you see on the right, I guess on your right, was the leader of the team that won the Winning Spirit Award. This team, what did they do? They repurposed 5 devices from 3 other divisions in the company to bring them into my division, the endoscopy division, and make them commercially available. On the face of it, if you have no understanding of what that is, that looks like a paperwork job. That looks like a regulatory and a quality kind of thing, right? So we advocate for this team and we get them up in front of the organization and we have them share with us the challenges, the details of the work, what they overcame. And essentially what this team did was bring 5 new products to market in a time-compressed way with every bit of complexity as if these were invented almost from scratch, including FDA clearance. And so we celebrate that and recognize their accomplishment. We also lead by example. So this is a recent communication from our CEO, Mike Mahoney, sharing his thoughts around vacation this summer and kind of the end of summer and how he's been rejuvenated by his vacation. And we're expected as members of our organization to step away from our organization intermittently and disconnect and re-energize. And that's not looked at as a weakness or a lack of dedication or not loving the institution, that's looked at as a responsibility, because we know that if you don't have work-life integration, which I think is a better word than balance, then you're not going to be valuable to the organization in the long run. So if you get an out-of-office reply like this from me that basically says, I'm on vacation and I'm not checking email, and if it's an emergency, you can call me, but otherwise I'm out. That's an expectation of me. And in fact, if I don't exhibit that behavior, that's considered not performing well. And in fact, my team tested this a little bit when I did that and had some pretty significant meetings while I was out of the office, and they were impressed that I didn't show. Because it showed them two things. One, that I was leading by example, and two, I trusted them to get the work done because we had organized the team in that fashion. We had trained them and created the leadership within the team so that they could do that. So these are my observations. Human resource management is a science. Pay attention to yourself and those around you and their performance and how they're advancing. Train. Nobody's born a leader. There are very specific tools that can help you be a better leader. Culture, as we know, is everything, but you have to work hard to develop it and permeate it through the organization, and that might be the strongest thing for balance and satisfaction in our life. Celebrate success and lead by example. And I'll leave you with two recommendations. One is, if you're going to have a discussion within your organization with different stakeholders about resources that you need to achieve that goal of nobody does something that people of lesser skill, experience, and knowledge can do, then you must know your self-worth to the organization. And I had this explained to me recently by my HR partner, and she said, Brian, if you can't articulate to the organization your value as if you're invoicing us for your work every week, then we can't make meaningful decisions about the resources that you need around you to do that work. So understand your value. And finally, find an HR partner. And this might be someone in your organization. They might be covered up a bit and have not been allowed to leverage their science in a way that's meaningful. And they might not be in your organization, and you might need to go out and find it. But call a consult, get an HR partner. It can be life-changing for your work and your organization. So thank you again. I appreciate the time, and I look forward to the discussion later.